Good morning. Welcome to Investigator News. I don't know, that opening music always gets me like, oh, I feel like I'm marching to a really good drum. Must fall on the sword, though, for not getting weather and earthquakes. I've been working on getting it set up for its own platform. And this morning, I got my first hurricane report. So I'm going to get in there and get this done today. Uh, no, nobody's got a wrench yet. I talked to Mary early this morning. I had to run by her this morning show. I had something planned, and I got some really good intel this morning. And so I had to cancel what I was going to do and what I had planned and bring this in for you guys. And this is very important that you guys hear about this. Um, and if I wasn't so into what happened in Syria, I wouldn't have caught it myself. I did have a gentleman that's one of my sources out of Israel get a hold of me, and he says, "You got to look into this, Ellie. You got to see this. I know you and Syrian Girl and Eve and a bunch of you were looking into Syria when it happened." He goes, "A report came out." So this morning, it's going to be a lot of intel that you guys got to soak in. And I know William's going to say, "Oh boy, Ellie, you piled on a lot of intel onto these guys. Now they're going to have to think on this." Um, so I wanted to say hello to my chat room because, boy, you guys are going to have to be interactive today. Nick and Susan and Mary and Karen. Now, Mary and Karen do not have their wrenches, but they are our moderators. I call them their beating sticks, with two prongs on it, like a snake, and they could just, they can get you. All right. So I want to get on with this. I'm not sure how long it's going to last. I hope right about an hour because I have an excellent show for tonight too, another corruption files. So now you got to kind of look back in 2018 when something happened in the United States Congress, and it didn't get much coverage. I'm trying to move my screen over so I can keep an eye on if they cut me today. Uh, United States Congress, and it didn't get much coverage. In fact, largely ignored, and little provision was hidden inside a 2,230-page government document spending bill. Now we're going now. Don't think I'm pulling out a whole list of stuff they shouldn't have spent the money on. This is really in-depth intel I'm going to give you today. So in this spending bill, it was very large, and no wonder it was ignored because military-industrial complex runs Congress, and the military spending bills are often ignored in the media and on Capitol Hill because everyone fails to line lockstep as they pass these weapon bills, and no one's asking any questions. Now, but on this day in 2018, there was something that didn't go as planned. And there was a little simple paragraph that was slipped into the bill. They do this. And it had incredibly profound consequences. And it actually passed and was approved by Congress. And this isn't the first time a little paragraph was thrown in there. And they go ahead, and because the Republicans never have time to read all the way through this, because they throw it on them, they hold it off, they wait till the last minute, they throw it on them, so it doesn't give them enough time to read it. So this is a lot of typical tricks. And I don't want to say that just the Democrats do it to the Republicans. It's been done back and forth. So this little paragraph makes its way into the spending bill, and by some brave members of Congress each time, though it was removed and deleted, but not this time. You see, since 2015, the overthrow of Ukraine government and the installation of the new regime, the United States government had been funneling millions of dollars in weapons to Ukraine military under the guise of protection. So for these 3 to 5 years under Obama, each of these spending bills, as they came to the table, There was a little tiny paragraph included to keep it removed, deleted. Uh, but now on March of 2018, that paragraph somehow managed to make it through. It passed Congress, none other than Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. This could be why Pelosi went to Ukraine recently. And what part did Biden play during those years? Now, we know Hunter Biden was there and at least a dozen Democrats in Ukraine at that time, in between 2013 and 15. So, okay, the spending bill was $1.3 trillion. And so, what did this paragraph say? None of the funds, and I know you guys know this, you probably heard it, and they throw it in everybody's face. Schumer and Pelosi and Biden, but they didn't stick by it, folks. So none of the funds made, this is what it says, available by this act may provide arms, training, or other assistance to the Azov battalion. Yes, Congress had to include the paragraph that made sure all of these weapons were not getting into the hands of the Nazi-led off-battalion separatists in Ukraine. Now, there's just one problem that we've reported here on the show. And it's well known at the time that the Azov Battalion wasn't some fringe group made up of only a few people. No, in fact, they have been very big since, I'm going to say 2010, when I was watching the first, the ongoing Ukrainian war. Now, the only reason why I watched this, let me mark my spot here. The only reason why I was watching it, folks, is because we had all these people fleeing Ukraine for Crimea. Okay. And that's what this is at the same time period. So I want you guys to really understand this today. So this is back then. And so everybody was not really watching. And of course, there was a war, there was atrocities, both sides, back and forth, back and forth. I've told you about that. So now there were a major, this Azov battalion separatists, because you always hear the separatists were at war. So this is a lot of what was going on. So they were a major part of the Ukrainian military at every level. And again, not just some fringe battalion made up of volunteers and just a handful of them. No, they were big. And in fact, Congressman Ro Khanna, who serves the 17th District of California, was outspoken at the time. And few congressional voices actually pushing to make sure the American tax dollars weren't going to the Nazis and this white supremacy group. And now, we know they're unacceptable right now. This is a big thing they're pushing. And they have no place in our world. And I'm very pleased that recently they passed an omnibus spending bill that prevents the United States from providing arms and training assistance to the Nazi battalion fighting in Ukraine. So Congress had been trying to get this paragraph in the spending bill since 2015. But we all remembered what happened in 2013 and 15. If you, so what was really going on is U.S. senators were traveling to Ukraine to meet Ukraine parliamentary, telling them that we are going to be sending lots of weapons. If you remember, well, maybe you didn't see it, but Lindsey Graham got up and did a press thing there in Ukraine, said, we're helping you. We're going to send lots of weapons. We're going to do something about Russia. And so now now they were back there in 2017, and it'll be the year of the offense. And they said they would be back. They'll push the case against Russia enough of a Russian aggression. And plus the dossier was being played for the first time. And it paid basically, we had the Ukraine going on. And then if you remember, we had the Russia collusion and what we're seeing with the Durham report, all of that was going on. And this started, uh, so when we agreed to send them all these weapons, it was, they thought, what the media thought and the journalists on the ground thought was that this was the first time. Now we're now finding out that we had been sending weapons all along. And it's in the open. It's under Freedom of Information Act, but no one's really questioned officials to find out why we were sending those weapons during a time when Ukraine was so corrupt. It was not under Zelensky. This was all of these dictator oligarchs that ran away with a lot of Ukraine's money. So, um, so just to be clear, after the visit with Congress, they started removing these paragraphs about the monies, the weapons, and not to send anything to Nazis or white supremacists. Now, 3 different times they removed this paragraph and then went in and cut it 3 times. Imagine, so you can imagine a congressman who did this. Now, I don't know who did it. It could have been Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff. Any of them could have, um, um, they could have, any one of them could have taken it out, put it back in until up to the time where they slid it back in. Okay. And they do this. They do this all the time with the money and the funding that we do. Oh, hello, William. Now I want to stop for a second. William, I might have called you this morning to maybe give input on this. If this runs is like I think this will, William, we might have you on tonight and answer questions any of you might have. So, so now we know that the spending bill, we continue to funnel money into Ukraine. And then if they would have removed it at a really good time, it would have stopped us from giving them any more money in 2015. Now, okay, so when Lindsey Graham and all of them were in there, you remember the only thing that Obama wanted to send them was blankets. Maybe that was a smart move, but actually we had something that was slipped in that did give them weapons. So when when Trump went in office and he says, "Oh, we'll send them javelins," and I thought, and he didn't send them very many, and I thought, well, that's sure not many for if you're fighting a war. That's not really going to help. Now it's perfectly clear why Trump didn't send much. So, okay, so we're sending money to basically a country that is very, very corrupt. And we're talking Zelensky just getting in office. And I'll even explain later about him and Trump talking about how corrupt this country was. So, and the military was half of these Azov battalion separatists, AKA Nazi white supremacist. Okay, so now you guys get an idea. Now, this battalion posted video showing soldiers in Ukraine using U.S.-made grenade launchers. So we do know that this was happening. And the videos were later removed. And the Ukraine National Guard issued a statement saying, "All's good here, nothing to see. And we made sure those grenade launchers aren't in the possession of the Azov battalion any longer. Nothing to see, all is good." And in 2018, the U.S. military leaders were caught meeting with this group in Ukraine. And of course, all those videos have disappeared. And also all the videos of what was going on in Ukraine and Crimea at that time. Because otherwise I'd be pulling videos up for you guys going, look what was going on. I did a few years back, but those shows got taken. by Facebook. This back, Karen, Karen, you remember we started on Facebook, and all of my videos back then have disappeared. So I'm going to move along on this. So the so basically, U.S. military leaders were caught meeting with this group in Ukraine. You're saying, what group? What group? The separatists, folks, the Azov Battalion. And of course, this begs the question, why would Congress then play this put in, put out, put in, put out? It means they're hiding something. And then this is what I've learned over the years looking at these bills. They're very long, very hard, thousands of pages. And it's like the Mueller report, 3,000 pages. And if you don't have the time, and I know all of my viewers are not going to sit down and read this monotonous material of we're going to spend it here, we're going to spend it there, and this is what it gets. It's boring. It's kind of like the Iran Contra hearings that I spent 30 days. It was 30 days worth. But I read this kind of stuff. So the U.S. military leaders, of course, this begs the question, why would Congress put a paragraph in on their spending bill after tens of thousands of Americans lost their lives fighting Nazis to liberate Europe in World War II? Wouldn't we already have something on the books, something like some sort of law? Something vetting process that keeps the United States from spending money or sending weapons to white supremacists? See, that was my question back in early 2000. It was even earlier than 2013 because it didn't make sense to me. And so actually, yes, we do. It's called the Leahy Law. But guess what? Leahy was in Ukraine with Graham and I believe it was McCain and a few others in 2013. I believe that's when it was, 2013-15. So if there's a Leahy law saying that we can't do it, what's he doing there? And then giving the same people he's against these weapons. So see, that was a big time, a big question in my mind. And it prevented the United States from sending aid to any group. And the Secretary of State has incredible information that such a gross violation of human rights on this human rights issues list, that we don't send money like that. But they did. The United States Congress kind of allowed to send money in the weapons and other aid groups, and the Secretary of State's office is already deemed violators of human rights. Of course, this brings up the next question, Secretary of State's office, and the time of that it was recognized, the Ukraine military and the battalion of these guys, they were violators of human rights at that time, okay? So why would we be sending them weapons? I hope you guys following along here. If I'm losing you, let me know, okay? Even you, Nick. Nick, listen up. You and your no war and bloody wars. Nick, you're going to want to hear this. So this so they had human rights violations back then, okay? And this is kind of, I think, why we sent Congress there to check this out, to find out what was going on. And then after they had talked to this group, now mind you, this is a bad president with a bad battalion that are causing atrocities, okay? This isn't Zelensky. This is before Zelensky, okay? This is what I'm trying to make sure you guys understand. So you don't think, oh, Zelensky's a horrible guy. Well, I'll mention, I don't know. I haven't dug far enough on this. But so the human rights, the answer may surprise you. And no, not officially. In fact, And the 2018, their report, which can you guys easily get, is accessible through the State Department website right now. Um, Most of Eastern Ukraine is exempt from their human rights violation right now. The report is in a heavy, controlled by the Azov battalion. But interesting, the State Department did recognize the Ukraine Security Service, the SBU, is known to torture, disappear individuals, and detain them or hold them without due process. And this is a part of the human rights violations that there was a lot of concern for back then. This is what made the country of Ukraine very corrupt. And then when the leader took off with the money, then they brought in Zelensky. So there was a lot of human rights violations. That's why we wanted to charge the previous president with these atrocities. And he fled and he hid and he had asylum for a while. Now, then he wanted to come and talk to President Biden, but now it was almost approved, but then they realized what he was and what he stood for, and they said, nope, 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 go away. Now, the problem is we have this same group that was still in the military, still 50% of the military when Zelensky took over. So now we have the same military, but under a different president. And that's kind of why Zelensky was looking at huge corruption in his country. And he was looking to the countries around him to say, hey, I need some help here. And they just said, well, get a corruption task force in place and start eliminating these guys. So that's what he did. But see now, oh boy, I can't get it. Can't say that. So he's keeping the same military, and he's pretty happy with it because they're getting farther, and they're able to stand up against Russia. Now, they're also responsible for the 2014 Maidan shootings in Kyiv. And they're also the very people, regardless of the Azov battalion, continue to receive money and support from the United States government. Also, the same group, the SBU, is responsible for grabbing a lot of journalists on the ground. Now, there was one that had been reporting on this corrupt army. He has disappeared. He is one that my journalist group are very concerned about, folks, and that basically they held him for 7 days, forced him to sign a non-disclosure agreement to silence him. Then this guy disappeared. And this is when it was put out that the journalists on the ground over in war areas to beware of what they were reporting. And none of them really understood. And one of the journalists that I have as a source over around the Syrian area, and I can't really say, they were reporting to me that watch out because they are not only is ISIS grabbing up these journalists and lopping their heads off, but there are journalists that are being found with gunshot wounds to their foreheads. And no one has seen it. No one knows nothing. Now, this guy disappears. And so the journalist on the ground decided that they need to look into what exactly is going on. And a lot of what I have to say this morning is what they're finding out. And it's very disheartening. It's very corrupt. And now these same journalists on the ground that not only were they These are the same journalists, folks, that were part of the Iraq war when we did Desert Storm. Then, when ISIS had come in, took over, and went north into Syria, they moved up there. Okay. And then when we went after bin Laden, they went to Afghanistan. Well, then we had Yemen and Libya and all these other things that was going on. So they kind of split up and they went uh, to all these different countries to find out exactly what was going on. So now we're finding out that these journalists are coming up missing. So now, if we to get back to what was going on back then with this omnibus spending bill, the money and the weapons, we're gonna we were gonna cut them off at one point, but then Ukraine, knowing that they need to um, have a military that's funded because all the money was taken. Zelensky didn't have squat to build on, so it was almost likely that we were going to be the ones to give them the money, and so the money and the weapons continued to flow. And there was growing concern by members of Congress at that time that we were actively recruiting soldiers to join in the ranks in Ukraine. And in fact, in October 2019, a full year after Congress said they were no longer going to send money, Max Rose, who chaired the counterterrorism subcommittee at the time, submitted a letter to the State Department, and it was co signed by 39 members of Democrat Congress to urge, among other things, for the department to designate as the battalion as a terrorist organization. Now, they shut him up very quickly when he did this. In the same fashion as Al Qaeda, ISIS, and interesting enough, the letter has been deleted from the internet, and because I couldn't find it, and I asked quite a few journalists and hit up some of my sources, and none of them, they all say no, it disappeared. It's either too hard to find or they've deleted it. And there's a lot of stuff that is being deleted from the United States Congress of Freedom of Information Act of what they've been doing. And this is my big frustration because I go to get stuff to show you and then it's gone. And the journalists are having the same issues. And in this letter that quote as off movement has been recruiting and radicalizing and training American citizens for years, folks, more than likely CIA. And of course, we try to refrain from that today, no boots on the ground. So people who are looking to cover up that story simply would be the Azov battalion. And it is not a small group. In fact, Foreign Policy magazine would love nothing more than a full-blown war with Russia. And the time in October 2019 in a piece, they criticized, and this is what they do to congressmen that stand up. If you notice them all of a sudden, oh, they got tax evasion. It's usually Republicans, tax evasion, child molesting, whatever they could get on these guys, unsavory. They'll make it up and they throw it out there and ruin them. And that's what they did to Max Rose. And so Max Rose, they wrote this quote that was founded in 2014 that helped defend Ukraine against Russian-led proxy forces. It was also quickly known as a place where foreign far-right extremists would make themselves at home for 6 years, and later off expanded into a prolonged movement with political party. And not only that, but street militia. And there was at least 3 dozens of affiliated smaller organization at the military unit is now under that make up their National Guard, and their military. So that's where you hear the people off the street have jumped in. Well, the Azov army has been training them. Okay. And it's a very small portion. So it's like 10 to 20%. So the Azov army controls the whole military. And so the people in charge, like their generals, would tell the street people or civilians, this is what we're going to do. Well, what they're doing is being deleted, and they're and fast and fast. And then um, they did find, boy, this is so good. Um, um, okay, so when the journalists on the ground decided they were going to start reporting what they had picked up, okay, that was going on over there, um, they decided to scatter. And now I know why some of my journalists went to Kyiv, some of them went to Crimea, and then we find out a lot of the journalists went to Mexico, they went to Syria. Well, one by one, they're being assassinated. And it depends on how much they know. And the problem is they're not leaving the intel or info behind with the ones that are still making it. Now they understand that whatever info they get, they have to give to one another, because these journalists are being picked off one by one. And I was given, Mary didn't know about this, and I talked to her this morning. What I got from this morning was, if I report this, I'm probably going to be listed. But you know what? I'm going to tell you guys the truth. Am I scared? Yes, I'm very scared. But if I'm going to dig and put my little feet out here and tell you the truth of what I seen in Syria, see, the message was, Ellie, you know what happened in Syria. You know, you've been getting data on this since Iraq. I started watching it when the Yazidi women were taken. So that was my introduction to it. And since then, I've been following it very closely. And now I've been chasing down the Yazidi women, but that's a different story. And I don't want to get sidetracked off of what I'm going to tell you today. Boy. So I got the threat. That I have the info that they have, that they're all being picked off for. And I'm stepping forward, and I'm going to do like they are doing. Will I get banned? If I go about this the right way today, I probably won't. And I don't want to lose this new channel. I really don't. But you know, when I get this kind of info at 4:30 in the morning, you know, it's something. It's important. It's important intel. All right, so so Rose's letter referring to the Azovs battalion was technically incorrect, but it displays a lack of understanding about the movement itself. So the Foreign Policy magazine, in their attempt to discredit the Congresswoman's Rose letter, they actually unwillingly revealed the size and scope of this group, and the small fringe group and its political movement, its street militia, and the full-fledged regiment actively recruited in foreign extremists, and yes, those members of the United States and MI6 and from the United Kingdom. That is why I tend to believe what was sent over there was CIA. William, you might even have to back me up on this. There are members in CIA that not only train for the military, and they go over there and actively do things, but they also train them for journalism and media, and they put them on places like NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN. We all know Anderson Cooper, CIA. That's been known for a very, very long time. So this is basically what we're seeing. There were journalists that were put over there, and when it gets rough, they're pulled out. If you notice, but then uh, what we were seeing was these. They call them foreign extremists. Yes, from the United States and the United Kingdom, MI6. So I want you guys to understand this. Um, um, Karen, let me get through this, and then because I'm almost finished, and then I'll answer some questions for everyone. Okay. So we've been reporting on this show um, that the U.S. is continuing to fund money and weapons. Okay. Now I've been telling you guys this, not only to Iran, but we send military equipment and aid to a lot of countries. So that isn't no biggie in my book. Okay. The problem is I had a problem with the atrocities, because um, I don't know. I have a problem with the atrocities in China too. I just am soft-hearted when you gather up a bunch of people and you do things to them. Oh boy, I'm going to get sidetracked here. Folks, my dad told me something that, um, oh boy, um, we had we had family members that were actually over there, and I don't know, I've questioned my brother and sister on this, and they said they really didn't know that they were Jewish. They were over there in Germany during the time, and they got taken, and they were uh, they ended up at Auschwitz and were gassed. This is what my dad told me one night. And so since then, it's really, that's why I have an issue with Soros, and Klaus Schwab and a few others. And it's because my dad looked me in the eyes very seriously, and this has affected me. And so when I see atrocities done to the people, it just really, it gets under my skin. And, it does. It just gets under my skin. Um, and I want to remind you guys, mindly, that before I got into this in journalism, I take journalism classes and media classes. I'm a party planner and a wedding consultant that got thrown into the midst of this. And so I'm a little rough. William's helping me and guiding me. I thank him very much for this. Um, but I'm just a simple woman that's a party planner, and I'm jumping in both feet to give you guys the truth. So let me get further onto this. So um, the truth is coming out, and the United States is a complicit in funding Ukraine. And wow, and get this, so many members of Congress were in Ukraine in between 2013 and 15, and we secretly send them weapons over and over and over again to this Azov troops and this military that Zelensky never had a chance to change. And what did the media report on? We sent them blankets. No, there was way more, folks. There was way more. Um, millions, close to $1 trillion. That's why I said, I keep telling you guys, we've sent billions, like 500, $600 billion of funding of military equipment to this army. Zelensky has got to stop these guys. You know what I said, and that I ended up losing the other channel over. This is military that has been going for since 2013, 2012, that have in the past done atrocities. Um, And we keep funding them. We keep sending them military equipment. So if something comes out, um, it's now, did you remember the misinformation, disinformation? Well, that came out when the journalists all started saying, we're talking, we're going to start telling you guys about this army, this military, that maybe it will help Zelensky. And then all of a sudden it was misinformation, disinformation. What did the media do? Oh, it's at us. It's at us. Think on this, folks. What did they say? No, it's about Russia. It's to shut us up. It's to shut us up that know what really happened from Iraq to Syria to Yemen to Libya to Afghanistan to Ukraine. And it's going to come out. Mary, you were right this morning. What you said about the, I guess, the 10 countries. Now think on what I just said, hon. And I don't have time to really explain what me and her talked about, but this backs up her friend. On it even backs up her friend. I can't get too far into it. So before I go on, because there's more. Anybody have a question? Randy boy, you need to really listen to this show today. China is no, not yet. Let's see. Let's see. Karen, did you have a question? Aren't we the okay? Aren't we? This is from Karen, our moderator. Aren't we, the USA, always the one that comes to the rescue of other countries? Yes. And why? Because we're one of the main superpowers. Now, a lot of these that we go and help, it's because, why don't they go to China or Russia? Because communism. And we're freedom, and we give the most. Our tax dollars, we have more people that pay into taxes that work that cover everything they spend. Where China and Russia, they subdue and hold their people down so they don't make that money like they should. That's why we do it. All right, so I'm going to move on unless somebody has a question. Okay, so what's going on in Ukraine? Something is up, something's bubbling in the war against Russia. Now, I've been saying it's went too quiet, and I thought it's because us media have been snipped. But until now, most have been fighting and been taking place in Ukraine, right? And that was the plan all along, of course. But we poked the bear. NATO pokes the bear, and bear meaning Russia. And they've done this since 2014, 15, since the Minsk agreement was put into place. Now, if you watched my show, I've went, me and William went over the Minsk agreement. So you might catch some of our previous shows if you're new. I'm going to get a bird. So of course, when NATO stepped in, we started seeing the collapse of Ukraine on the Minsk agreement, and NATO starting to be collective on all them other countries. And then, all of a sudden, this part of Ukraine gets totally destroyed. Was it the plan all along? Was Western powers, did they move in using enriched money from the military industrial complex? And it doesn't go much deeper than that, right? And how it plays out is just like it did in Afghanistan. Maybe you don't see the connections now, but I'm right on this. It's exactly how it played. It was starting to play out in Afghanistan. I'm not meaning when we all pulled out. I'm meaning the years of the war going on and on and on and on. And of course, Trump wanted to pull out, just like he did with Syria, just like he didn't want to get into this with Ukraine and Russia. It's playing out like it did in Afghanistan. And so um, Ukraine gets basically destroyed. And now world leaders who have invested their interest in ways plays out. And it doesn't seem like there's very many world powers, but it was just leaked this week that Boris uh, Johnston, uh, he was in Ukraine, and that he purposely pushed Zelensky away from peace talks with Russia. This is what the journalist on the ground found out. And that the West doesn't mind if Ukraine gets torn apart. And it seems what continues to happen because the plan, of course, is the extension of Western imperial powers. Now, okay, so this talk of nuclear, you're like, why are they all pushing nukes? Because it seems the plan, of course, uh, because the West doesn't mind if Ukraine gets torn apart. And it seems to be what continues to happen. That plan, of course, is the extension of the Western imperial powers and the enrichment of the military industrial complex. Like, that's the story, right? Because the United States is funding NATO largely. And you know the EU is putting up like $50 million, and the United States is putting up $54 billion. And what's happening here, it doesn't go much deeper than you going to use a country, destroy it, and further our goals for all the bombing and all the fighting that's been happening in Ukraine, that's been happening in all the countries. And of course, now we're looking at Ukraine. And to this point, however, there have been a few explosions that they have made across the border into Russia territory. But for the most parts, it's been all Ukraine, right? All the cities being destroyed, it's being leveled, just like they did just like we did to Syria. Okay, I want you guys to understand that. What happened in Syria, we did. Okay, we were going after ISIS, remember? Let me ISIS ran from, they swept through Iraq. They went into Syria. Boy, William, you're loving this. I know you are. And so we went after ISIS. Well, all the bombing and all that destruction in Syria that you see, we did that because we were going after ISIS. And even Aragon, he said, stop doing this. You're ripping up my country. Now that I remember, and I was kind of on his side going, why are we leveling Syria? I mean, getting ISIS is one thing, but leveling the whole country something else. Well, now we're seeing it again, but this time it's Russia and Ukraine that are destroying these cities that who wants? Putin wants. Okay, so now we have this headline from Politico that actually is pretty surprising. And the headline, Politico, Biden resists Ukraine demands for long-range rocket launchers. So what's going on here? Well, it's very interesting. If you kind of dive in, actually what's happening, the long-range missiles and rocket launchers, they can move and evade Russian tanks. They can move and they can set up. They are M70 tanks, and so they can move, and they're very rapid. They can fire off multiple missiles all in one time, then move, and they can pop up and move and keep moving. So they continually roll so they can get things, they can get long range. So we're talking they can go very long range. Now, Biden is worried that the longer Ukraine has access to this, this battalion or this Azov battalion will start using it for its own purposes. So, um, now, if you look at eastern section, or even not even if you look at Donbass region, you want to fire missiles into Russia. They are perfect vehicles to do so. The problem is that there is a Kyle Anazalone, an unnamed White House official cited by Politico, that it indicated the Biden's reluctance to send them these, like there's not a final decision that's been made, and that Washington and Kyiv are actively discussing about this weapon. The bottom line is Zelensky wants these weapons. So does the Azov battalion. They want these weapons to start attacking inside of Russia. And I have to, I really was thinking about this. And if you look at the data and listen to what Zelensky had said before listening to him pushing on this, that it was he was open to peace talks, and then the EU and NATO rushes in and says, no, 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 no peace, no peace, no, 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 no peace. There will be no peace. They weren't even open to it. So stop talking about peace. So it's like he's calling, kind of calling their bluff. So send us the weapons because we need to start attacking Russia. And what are you dragging your feet on? And the president Biden saying, I'm not so sure I want to send these weapons yet because we're worried about escalating this war. Or is he? There. And meanwhile, Ukraine MP was on Nigel Farage last night. I believe it was last night or the night before. Actually, peace talks are still on the table with Russia. We don't intend to attack inside Moscow or attack Putin at all. We just want him to leave. And once he pulls out, then everything will be fine. Well, this is so these are conflicting messages. So are US made machines because they look very Russian, or and so we won't tell one side from the other. Maybe the journalists won't pay attention to what's going on who's doing what to who. Now, if we send over this stuff, it's definitely it's not that it has USA stamped on the side of it, folks. It's the fact that we know, and a lot of journalists do know. And that's what the problem is. We've sent so much equipment over there. The journalists are now saying, wait a minute now. Aren't you why are you have Russian stuff and blowing things up you shouldn't be blowing up? We thought that was Russia doing it. Now we know you guys are doing it. And wow, so why are you guys blowing up your own stuff? Okay, this is what the journalists are figuring out. And so they see all these elite tactical anti aircraft, they see these vehicles, and then then all of a sudden, boy, I bet William wants in on this one today. I might have to have William on tonight and kind of put off the show I had planned to really discuss this. So these vehicles, the problem is Putin had a parade, and he showed all of his vehicles, all of his stuff, all his military and everybody, but not really many people paid attention to it, but the journalists did. And they said, oh, why? Okay, it makes no sense. What is Ukraine doing with Russian things? And why is the United States sending them Russian things? Now, William could probably answer that question. I don't know, but the journalists are seeing it. So why it almost looks like, from the journalists on the ground saying, it looks like Russia fighting Russia. So how does anybody know who's who? And see, this is the problem. Before, in 2015, when it started heating up to 2017, it was, we could tell what was Ukraine and they could tell what was Russia. Now it's very confusing. And so now it's up to the journalists to figure out who's who on this battlefield. And so what did they do? Disinformation, misinformation. We need to shut the media down. Why? What have we found out? What are we seeing? What are we missing? Is what quite a few of them, and my journalists or even and reporters and sources are telling me. What have we missing? The military, the military is very serious on this over there. And they catalog all the world leaders that seem to send what equipment to where, and so we know. And I mean, you can't just order from a catalog on military equipment. That Ukraine is only going on what has been sent to them. And so what it looks like, um, and interesting, Victoria Nuland has come out. And now remember, Victoria Nuland, of course, is the lackey for the Biden administration or for the Obama administration, who is responsible for basically helping set up the new regime under Obama inside of Ukraine. And then she's the one that confirmed the biolabs in Ukraine and know what concern is from Zelensky. Like we've already sent these weapons, and we already know about these biolabs and where they're at and who has access to them. Okay, so wait a minute. President Biden is ready to send something that this could escalate to war, which could um, um, be some serious links. We're talking like they're moving everything up to 30, 40, 50 miles into Russia and hitting Russian targets inside another basically into Mother Russia. And this is what Obama wanted to do back then. Now with the same, what they did was everybody that was in the regime, and I'll say the Obama administration, has been brought back. Now, we all know this. Okay. So now it's either a cleanup or it's a continued for the plan that they have. Now, Ukraine isn't the big picture and the big plan because I told you about all these other countries over there. So, we never really get a real big picture of who has who and who has what in Ukraine and where is it going to end up after this is done. Now, Zelensky has already said he plans to keep this military. He's very happy with this military. He makes them out to be heroes. Okay, but then we're starting to see atrocities over there. And so what we're seeing would be a call of a violation of national security. But we can't tell Russia like, hey, we sent 8 bombs and, five of these bombs, you know how to match up of course, we're not going to get any real accounting for what we've sent. And meanwhile, Rand Paul figures this out. Now, you guys, he's a hero. Stick with Rand Paul on this because he started digging up some of this. Either that or these journalists on the ground are telling him what's really going on over there. And so they want some kind of accounting, okay, of where the money goes. So the Senate has not passed the package to go any further. So they want to know exactly, because why? Remember that those bills that were being stuck in there and pulled out and in there and out? That's the issue. And Rand Paul has happened to find out about this. So there seems to be a foregone conclusion of this $54 billion. And just think for a second, $54 billion they're going to send five, or not only that, but maybe an additional $250 million separate for food and aid. So what are they spending this money on? Have they agreed to these missiles, or have they going to set up Ukraine into finally firing into Russia? Um, and so, they're going to be voting on this. Well, um, uh, they were basically voted, and 128 Republicans voted against it for the 250 million that would go to Ukraine food. Why? Because Rand Paul said, wait a minute, we need to figure out uh, what the additional $28 million was for. And the floor said that they had, that, it was, we want a detailed list. And if you don't give us that, then we're not going to approve this. They're hiding something. And then when Rand Paul had went back and he had looked what happened before, he started noticing that um, um, there was uh, things that had been pulled out. Okay, it was like redacted where they blackened, and he said, "No, what is this? Oh, we're not going to add that. Well, good. There's less. Oh no, we're going to keep it the same." So what they were trying to do is they're trying to hide it now, uh, and so now Biden now reversed course on this and said, we're maybe we'll take a look at it, redo it, and re-put it out again, but it could be a couple thousand pages. And of course, Rand Paul don't want nothing to do with this. So what does Biden do? He's now went to China and got the money. And of course, he doesn't have to explain to China what all these different items are. And of course, he's probably going to get it, which means he don't have to tell Republican Congress or us what's in that package. We will never know. If he goes to China, folks, we'll never know what's in that. Um, so, um, so does he plan to send these long-range rockets to Ukraine, or um, or is it that are they pushing Russia to give it to Ukraine to push Russia for the long-term weapons? Either way, it's like they are trying to push us into this war of long-range weapons for them to attack inside Russia. This is something Biden promised the U.S. it wouldn't happen. Make no mistake about it. He said no. And what did he say? No boots on the ground. But what have we found out? There has been. They're secretly sending them over. And so is the UK. So now we're looking at World War III. This is that. Why do you think I keep titling this World War III when me and William do these shows? It's because we are in World War III. There are boots on the ground. We are supplying and supplying weapons to them. And, that's what he said. Oh, no, we're not going to do this. We're just sending them stuff. They're getting stuff from, us and all around the world, and money and food. And you know how Biden is. And does he really know? Is his head together to know what's being sent? Or is it the Pelosi, the Schumers, and the other leaders, or NATO? We don't know who is behind all this. This is a long-term extension, and it's going to end up a total destruction of Ukraine. But do they care? Look at what we did to Syria. We don't care. And that, if we are going to start attacking inside of Russia, you can only draw from your own conclusions that they're going to lie to you about it and do this little love fest dance. Maybe they'll do the little CERN dance to mesmerize you and wear funny little costumes. Oh, isn't that If you look at their protesters, kind of that kind of look. So, are they going to resist the demands for these long range rockets? Um, because it's escalating and it's escalating quickly, they say. We're not hearing any info out of Ukraine. They have been, all of the journalists have been snubbed over there, not meaning killed. It's just mum's the word and you're not talking. We have the duct tape over our mouths. But, um, we might have a resistance, but cynically speaking, uh, uh, I believe these long range rockets have now been paid for. And it's a bingo moment right there. And if some defense contractor that pushed this and is control of it, we'll never know. And this is an uh, anti-ethical, I'm thinking, to the national security, sort of weapon stocks, which specify, seems like more of an intimidation tactic for who are we intimidating? Russia? Uh, you know, we weren't going to send them, but um, we weren't going to send them. But all of a sudden, when you see Pelosi over there with Schiff and a few others, I was like, why are they over there? And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, they were over there in 2013, 15, 17, 19. Huh. You know what? I think it made them mad. Well, they're making me mad. Um, so you got this support, and I think Nancy Pelosi went over there and did the winky winky. Yeah, and yeah, we're going to get you taken care of, winky winky. Uh, we support your war porn, and we're going to go ahead and oh wow, look how awesome your military is, and we're just going to name them the new Ukraine military. Let's not look at what's in there. And who's going to make out on this? When you start looking who the defense contractors are that are now putting their little feet in the ground, and starting to fund all this, you're talking, uh, you know, basically Washington put the call to Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, they said we're going to need to ramp up our production. We're going to take the stocks, and now Washington, you need to, and Raytheon, you need to ramp up the productions. And this is something me and William told you. And President Biden flies to Lockheed Martin. Did you know that? Him and his little dog and pony show. Lockheed Martin full-on infomercial for Lockheed Martin, the Javelin missiles, everything else that they wanted. Well, we didn't know that he had made a stop there. We knew he made these stops to the farmers and all this other stuff. When were they going to let us know that he was going to, once he talked to China, run over to um, these Lockheed and um, oh gosh, what's the other? Raytheon, and start full production, which now we found out has happened. It's only Javelin missiles, don't you know? Because, we're going to spend $54 billion on what? Javelin missiles. I don't think so. Something's in this defense project, and we know the Pentagon knows. They say, get this. Well, some of it's for baby food and aid to help the babies and the women over there. Well, no, because they passed another package for that. So how they seem to snooker the watchers of the news into thinking, okay, this is all going to the baby food, but guess what? We're going to hide behind this 54 million of what we're actually going to send over there. Or is this a payoff? This was the other one. Is this a payoff like we did in Afghanistan when we left all that equipment. We're in a war, and this is a war like no other. This is we are now starting to see issues that are coming out of Mexico and different things we want to do with Venezuela. And not only that, but the problem is we need to, and I'll get into it a little further. I might have to continue this tonight. Um, we ran over to Venezuela, and Venezuela is next, real close to Colombia, and it's the drug capital. It's not the gas, folks. It's not the gas they're dropping these sanctions on. It is the drugs. In order to soothe the druggies over in Ukraine, on some of them, we're going to have to ship it over there to them. So are we starting another drugs for guns? We don't know. But see, you just never know. So we're in a war on drugs, not only over here, but it's now seeming to shift over to Ukraine, because that was one of the biggest things that Zelensky put a corruption team together to thwart. Um, Now we so basically, Congress still has not declared when the Iraq war ended, because I want to get in a little bit with this. I'm trying to see how much farther I got here. Um, because there was something that happened in Iraq, and they didn't want anybody to know. And what we did is we quickly ran to Afghanistan for the poppies, um, and then we put our own soldiers on the poppy fields over in Afghanistan. Well, when we did that, something happened over there, and rumors have it that Ukraine was actually getting shipment of hashish and heroin and a lot of methamphetamine. I don't know where that jumped in at, but even sorts of human trafficking that was going on with these, only the corrupted people. I'm not talking Zelensky, okay? And so, where the war ended in Iraq, it started hurting certain oligarchs that and warmongers that was using this type of tactics to um, keep the people down. And not only that, but it was to keep the oligarchs in charge, so they could do all this. Um, Move the drugs, move the human trafficking right around. So this is something that I've heard that McCain and Cheney knew about. So um, a good question is, why would we support that? Why would all these presidents be a part of this? I don't know. You look at the Iran Contra and the Clintons, and I know the Clintons had serious drug problems here. That I can attest to, um, of what was going on here, and the drugs that were moved. And me and Rendy's going to continue showing you all the stuff that the Clintons did, and it makes more sense once you get into it. So the benefits that go to the soldiers in the combat zones, because I'm going to get back into this. The money they make off of all of this that's being moved around is retirement for these guys. Because you got to remember, Ukraine is broke, folks. That president before took it all, took everything. And this is, these are it's almost, these are guys that fought very, very hard, and Zelensky's got to pay his military. And so it looks like um, we're having little hints of Vietnam and World War II and the Iraqi war. And I'm not sure why the speech he made on the crew of the Navy cruiser wasn't enough to say that he was wrong. We're talking Biden, okay? Um, because he got on that Navy cruiser, and the statements he made, the journalists say that he was just totally wrong on. But Biden, he didn't, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So you can't really, my response to that with the journalist was, Biden has no clue. He just reads from the teleprompter. And what they tell him to say, he says. But then when you start answering questions, there's just nothing there. So all of what happened is basically this war that was going on in 2010 to 13 to 15 to 19, and now it's continuing. Um, we basically, all of this started under the Obama administration. And remember, it was Hunter that we were covering for Obama, Biden, even Democrat Congress. Maybe in time we'll find out. Maybe a leak from an honest journalist in time will tell. And what I'm talking about is there was a reason that the Biden administration zipped in over there on Burisma. And it was because when the previous president left, it left everything open and for sale, basically. Of course, Biden, being the weasel he is, stepped in, and knowing he's vice president, he can't do this, but his kids can't to a certain point. Jumped in, started Burisma, and they started what they were going to do was grab all the labs, all the biolabs, all the gas, natural gas, and any oil, anything that was out there that they could make money off of because it was up for sale. And of course, this is where you have Hunter Biden moving in, getting part of Burisma. Now he's on the board. Him and one of his friends, I call it like the Star Trek fifth crew members. It was him and two others. And now look who's in jail, and look who's running free smoking crack. That's why these laptops are very important. It shows all the money they made. But see, that's not the point of pretty much. Oh boy, I gotta watch this. What's going on and what's being revealed. So what we're finding out is we have actually been giving Ukraine the Azov army, which these guys are Nazis. They're a proud Nazi group. Go look them up. Go look at the Azov battalion, folks. And I'll have to read your guys' comments here in a second. So what we're seeing is we've been giving this army lots of money. And so where's all the military equipment? Where is, get this, folks, we're looking at maybe $300 billion. By the time we got into this time, there's about $300 billion that we have been shipped to Ukraine. And the previous president didn't take it, okay? This went into the army for military equipment. The president didn't take, he just took money. He didn't take the equipment. So where is the equipment that we left them? What did they do with it? That we have to keep sending them more and more and more and more and more. And it makes no sense. Now, what the journalists on the ground are saying is that it went into the pockets of this Azov army, and they have been using it to promote and get more from Germany and some of the white supremacists out of Sweden and Finland to start combining with, guess who? NATO. Does NATO know about this? I don't know. That I can't honestly answer. But it seems that, and that's why I said what I did yesterday, if you watch the show, about what I said about the Germans. And I even said to Mary, well, I got to talk to William on this one. I don't know if my opinion is right on this. But you guys are gonna have to watch yesterday's because I don't know if I'm safe to re-say it because they haven't taken it yet. So what we have done is we wrote a bill that said we will not give these guys this money. Secretly, we've been giving these guys this money. And now that us journalists are coming forward and we're saying, you know what? None of this makes sense. You have been funding the people that you now accuse, oh, we're going to put neo-Nazis and white supremacists, domestic, um, on the terrorist list. Well, okay, but what about them guys over there that you've been sending military equipment to for since 2013? That's what, 20 years? Well, hey, wait a minute now. Oh, let's cut time to cut the disinformation, misinformation thing because we might have to disclose something. It seems weird, huh, folks? But that's what I was hearing this morning. Unfortunately, um, um, uh, I'll get to it here in a second. I am only half done with this report, folks. So what I wanted to do with Hillary tonight, I'm going to have to finish it up and maybe send William some of my info or go over it with him and see if he would like to come on tonight because um, there is a Kirby cover-up that came out of the Pentagon the beginning of the week or 2 days ago. That it wasn't one of us; it was actually the New York Times and others that have caught this and started asking him questions. And this has to do not only with 9/11, not 9/11, Iraq War. Maybe it does with 9/11. Um, but they were asking Kirby some questions, and he basically blew them off and said, no, let's talk about suicide. Let's talk about how bad Putin is. Um, and he wouldn't answer the questions. And and so I have a really big report on that also. Boy, you guys, I have like two to three more reports for you that I received this morning. Now I would end up with a 4-hour show. Um, and I don't want to push it that far. So I guess this is part one, part two. Um, it was a Syrian report from Kirby, and he only switched subject because the cover up that they're trying to accuse Trump of is honest. It's honestly, this is an Obama-led strikes in Syria, and it's about the drones. And so I'm asking you to come back. Um, oh boy. We've been censored and I've had to move 2 times, but I strive to bring you guys the truth and news. And I'm only trying to bring you guys stuff you don't hear about. Um, and so make sure you're connected and hit that bell and subscribe. And if you know people that are missing from our group, let them know. This stuff needs to be, we have to get this out of what they even tried to do to Trump because he was the odd man out when he got in. Some may hate Trump, some may have not voted for him, but when you get a load of what the Democrats and the world economic, one world government leaders have been doing, um, it's scary. It's very scary. But see, the fear is now is for us to get this info out to you and for you to see, even if you hate Trump and you just don't like the man and you're a Republican, maybe it's best we get him back in because I have a feeling Zelensky was a cry to help to Trump, but he couldn't quite do it because they were listening on that call. And then we had them want to pull forward the transcripts to see if Zelensky actually said anything. We could be looking at a military out of control that's controlling Zelensky. We could be looking at maybe NATO and others, but we could also be looking at an involvement there. Um, and it's only the journalists with their feet on the ground that keeps going place to place to place, but we're losing them awfully quickly. Um, so if you guys, I'm going to try to scroll through and get some of these questions. Uh, um, let's see. I'm not, let's see. What do you think about those surrounding countries who've applied to the EU and NATO? Um, did what the EU wants the US to impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine, and they are trying to talk the US into it, is what William said. I'm not happy about it. They should have been sending 7% of the GDP to NATO during the peacetime. We don't need fair weather friends. Um, the no-fly zone is still in the works. No one can win against uh, a world power without air support. Um, so we made it look like a proxy. We had to. Um, uh, 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 Rendy, I think I explained to Rendy what a proxy war was. And maybe, William, are you going to join me tonight? I guess that's the question, because we might need to. Um, the bravest woman out there. I told Mary this morning, um, I ought to be right up there with the big guys, but they keep taking me out. And then not only that, we had some of the big guys, and some of you that are close to me know who these guys are. That when they had the chance to have me on their shows, they wanted me to either pay them or pay people to come on with me. And I'm not going to badmouth nobody. And Ellie don't pay. And you know what? I'm going to give you guys the truth. I'm not going to do a super chat because you know what? I think it's greed. And I'm not putting none of the other guys down that do the super chat, but I want my viewers to come in and feel free. They can ask a question. I ain't going to charge them for it. Well, we need to get the truth out, not to make money. I'm going to probably make money on Rumble, and who cares? I'm not about the money. But Ellie ought to be big time. That's just me. Uh, that's just me. Ellie eventually wants to get a little bit. So with that, folks, I am going to end. Subscribe and hit that bell. Share this because there's more. Oh, there's more. I'm gonna break open the Intel piggy bank tonight and finish up with this because there's a lot more. There it goes. It not only goes from Ukraine, but boy, I got some stuff with Venezuela and China tonight. This doesn't quit. I'm exposing everything that was given to me with all the intel that I have in my notebook. Uh, do they want to come get my notebook? Oh boy, if they could read my chicken scratch, good luck with that. Most of it's right here. And it's because I started watching the Syrian war and Iraq. So you're good for tonight? Okay, William. We'll get William on here with me tonight. William, I'll give you a call in a few hours. Um, I got the kid thing happening and some other things. But yes, William, I'll go over what I have and we'll talk about tonight a little bit. And then we'll bring everybody for part 2 of, let's open up the deep state. Let's find out what they're part of. And you know what? I'm sick of their war games because you know what? We're not playing Battleship. This isn't the game of Battleship. This isn't, what is it, World of War, World of Tanks. This isn't no longer a game. And you know what? We caught them playing that. We caught them playing it. and it happened right on everybody's TV sets. So I got links for you guys tonight. I got quite a bit that I've got set up on this other screen. I got another screen that's right there, if you guys can see the light. And I have tabs all the way across for you guys. I'm going to give you guys some info and let you guys see some things of what I talk about tonight. So come on back, and this is going to get deep. Ellie's, I got my big girl pants on, and I got my waders, and you know what? I got that scope on my bow that makes Biden very nervous. Oh, geez. I want to go hunt some pig with it. So what time? It will be 9 p.m. Eastern time. The only time we have a later show is Monday nights. So Rindy, oh, never mind. I guess I'll call her later too. So Karen and Mary, I'll try to put your wrenches in place today. So we are looking for a very big show tonight. Isn't that what was his name? Sullivan. It's a very big show. We got a very big show for you tonight. Ed Sullivan. There you go. So come on back tonight. And you know what? The truth's what matters. The truth is what matters. And I'm sick of these stupid media that lie. I just want to kick them in the shins. So with that, everyone, we will see you later. And I will try to squeeze in. If I don't, we're going to start getting the Weather Channel, because I did get an earthquake. I did get a hurricane report. Nothing's happening, but I'm now starting to get the hurricane reports back again. And I did them last year, and the last few years I've done hurricane reports. So I'm going to separate it out, and I think you guys would be very, very happy to see what the new things I want to do for the shows. All right. So we will see you back tonight, and always share what we got, and invite your friends and family back tonight. So see you tonight, folks, and God bless.